Alright, it's Henry again, and this is part 2 of my work in progress on the Master Grade High New Gundam. So part 1 we got the inner frame done, and in this part we're going to be painting the outer armor and the weapons. Now this High New Gundam is going to be pretty much an OOB paint job, just painting the kit straight out of the box without doing any real modifications. However, I am going to be doing two little alterations to the color scheme. The Master Grade High New Gundam has got this nice little kind of block pattern molded into the shield. And the original High New Gundam design from back in the 80s, 90s has traditionally had kind of a gradient fade pattern on the shield and the fin funnels, and sometimes even other parts of the mobile suit as well. So that's actually what I'm going to do. That's the one little change in the paint scheme I'm going to do. Rather than just having the fin funnels like this, white on the bottom, blue on the top, I'm going to paint the, well, I'm going to leave the bottom side white, but this part I'm going to paint it white, and then starting at the end I'm going to airbrush on the blue and then just fade it up about halfway to where it'll be white at this end and then blue at this end, and just kind of fade between. And then I'll do that on each half of the fin funnel, so those should look fairly nice. Sometimes, like on the older High New Gundams, you'll see it has like a striped pattern, actually like gradient stripes on the fin funnels, and honestly I don't really care for that. I think it'd look nicer just with a nice simple little gradient like I just described. And I'm going to do pretty much the same thing on the shield as well. This is going to require a little bit of seam line filling. As you can see, we got a big blue part with these two white pieces on here to make this kind of block pattern. While I do like block patterns, and I've used these this kind of block pattern on some of my other paint jobs, I think for this guy I'm going to go with the gradient. And basically all I've really got to do is just cement all this stuff together, take a little bit of putty, and fill in the seam lines between the blue and white parts, and then sand it down, give it a nice coat of primer, and then I'll be doing the same thing as the fin funnels. It'll be white at the top, blue at the bottom, and I'll just take that blue and fade it up about halfway up the shield. And other than that, those are really the only changes to the High New Gundam that I'm going to be doing. Over here I'm just filling in some seam lines on these propellant tanks, the head as well. The head I've had to do a little bit of disassembly, just to fill in that seam line around the head, and then I'll paint this separately and then just insert that up inside the helmet area. Filling in seam lines on the beam rifle. The beam rifle is actually, they had this thing where it just snapped on the side. It's got really, really nice detail on the beam rifle, and then you would have just snapped these two halves together and you'd never see this detail again, but I cut off all those old pegs, so now it'll just sort of slide down on there and I can remove it and show off that detail during the review now. And had to modify the Hyper Bazooka a little bit as well. Had to cut off this back part, and I'll just glue that back on later, all in an effort to fill in seam lines. Luckily, those were all the seam lines on there except for these funnels. The funnels didn't have any seam lines. Everything else is just in here, and now all I gotta do is start painting it. It took a little bit longer than I thought it would, but Master Grade High Nu Gundam is finally finished. All the paint has turned out pretty good, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I like the shade of blue. In fact, the shade of blue is almost exactly the same as the color plastic it was molded in, so I think I got that spot on. A lot of people, like the older High Nu Gundams, you'll see use kind of a darker purplish blue, but I really like the light blue that they used on the Master Grade, so I wanted to keep that. And there you can see the gradient fade effects on the funnels, and also there on the shield. In the top coat, I changed up a little bit. Usually, for 99.9% of the kits I do, I use a flat top coat. But this time around, I got to thinking, you know, a lot of my kits would probably look better if they were in semi-gloss rather than flat. So that's what I did for High Nu Gundam. I actually used a semi-gloss top coat instead of flat, and I'm actually really glad I went with that, because I like the way it turns out. It's not super flat, but again, it's not glossy. It's just right in between, and I'm really liking the way that's looking, because I think a lot of the times Bandai, when they paint model kits to put on the box art and in the manual, they use a semi-gloss finish, so that's kind of what I wanted to replicate. So everything on this guy is done, and all that's left to do now is the review. So with that, I'll see you guys next time.